SuperCoach Paige show. I'm Paige.
I'm Matt.
And we're back without David this week, sadly, due to a few uncontrollable circumstances. But nonetheless, we've still got a great show ahead. But let's just kick things off with basically how good we were this week.
Yeah, we got the same score, 23-42 for the both of us.
Pretty good.
David, it's his personal circumstances. I think he's just here because he was the lowest scorer.
Oh no, terrible. 2-2-6-2 for him.
2-2-6-2, not good enough.
No, he is the lowest coach again of the week. This is just becoming a running joke, I think. He's going to have to up his, definitely
his
up.
game into the finals.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just not good enough. And we'll move right into what's going to be the big thing each week for the rest of the season. We're in SuperCoach Finals, and each week we're going to be discussing the All-Australian teams. So the best players that you could have possibly had on the field throughout the year. Lots of different criteria for that. This week it's defenders, and we'll do one line each week. But just tell a bit about the criteria.
Well, the criteria we have is based on three things. Now, it's based on durability, so that is how many times a player has played this year. Now, we've set that for the defenders for a minimum of 15 games.
Yep.
Now, there's also score power, and score power refers to how many times a certain player has scored over 100 this year. Now, we've had a minimum of at least 6 tons to be able to get into this All-Australian side.
Yep.
And consistency is a big thing as well. So it's how many times a player scores over 80 during the season.
Yeah.
So based on all those three things, we have come up with the best 8, including the best first-year defender. And we'll kick things right off. This guy was number one on everyone's radar to begin with at the start of the year. It's Brendan Goddard. Now, he has had 16 scores of 80 plus, so that's hugely consistent from him. Massive 9 scores of 100 plus. Now that makes him one of the number 1 All-Australian player in this defence side. So he's averaged 102 this year, 18 games played. He's played every game, and he's been owned by 64% of the competition. So very, very well back there, and he looks to be almost back to his best scoring from when he was at St Kilda. So moving to Essendon's really refreshed him in the off-season, and as such he gets an All-Australian selection. Moving on as well, now he's become a huge breakout player this year. Pierce Hanley from the Brisbane Lions, one of my favourites this year. I was pretty late to jump on him, but nonetheless, 13 scores of 80 plus, very consistent there from him. 9 scores of 100 plus, so he has really only had a couple last year. So in terms of development, next year he's someone that should be on your radar as well. An average of 100 from 16 games this year. Missed a couple there with a hand injury and suspension, and he's owned by 19% of the competition. So
not enough in my opinion.
No, it's not. It's only a fifth of the competition. So
they've got an easy run home as well, Brisbane.
Exactly. So if you haven't got him, he's someone to be looking at. And another one who's also on field is Collingwood's Heath Shaw. Now, he was pretty pricey coming into the start of the season. Was a little bit inconsistent to start off with, but when he hit his straps, he went berserk.
Yeah, he did.
13 scores of 80 plus this year, and 7 scores of 100 plus. So he's been very potent for the owners that have got him. Average of 101 from 15 games this year, which is fantastic. And he's also owned by 28%, so not just a bit over a quarter of the competition there have got him. Isn't overly bad, it's just probably because of that inconsistency he sometimes has, but he's scored enough to fit the criteria and to get a place in our team.
Definitely. 3 more on the field. Scott D. Thompson from North Melbourne. Hugely consistent.
I mean, you wouldn't have seen him coming.
No, definitely not. The last 3 are really a few smokies. So one sort of elder statesman, we'll call him. But start with Thompson, 15 80 plus scores, so very consistent. 7 scores of 100 plus, and an average of 99.78. So not quite 100, but close enough.
His second half of the year, he has really shot out of the blocks. I think that's where he's really come from.
Yeah, definitely. And he played 18 games, and he's only owned by 8% of the competition. So not enough.
A pretty unique option as well. So going into finals, and considering he's a key position defender, he is scoring like he's a rebounding back.
He's very reliable. And Corey Enright, one that's been very reliable over the years.
Old faithful.
Still gets an All-Australian selection. 14 scores of 80 plus, 7 scores of 100 plus, average of 94, so not as huge as the big premium 4, and that's off 18 games and owned by 8.4% of the competition.
Crazy, he is still going strong, he is super reliable.
And one that's really out of left field, Harry Taylor gets a selection on the field. 12 scores of 80 plus, 7 scores of 100 plus, Played 17 games, is averaging 95. So.
He's probably been one that's probably snuck in here, probably mainly due to the fact that he's played that role forward as well. So when he's gone forward, he's kicked bags, and that's obviously reflected highly in his scoring.
He's a really reliable swingman for Geelong.
He is.
He's actually owned by 8.6%, so more than Enright and Thompson. So
well, there you go. Now on to our All-Australian bench. So we've got a couple of boys here that will probably be very well backed, especially this boy at the start of the year. It is Dyson Heppel.
Yeah.
We've got now Dyson Heppel. 13 scores of 80 plus, and he's had 6 scores of 100 plus this year. Average of 94, which I think is pretty good. He started the year off a little bit
tentatively.
Yeah, it was just a little bit touch and go.
The way he plays, really, a bit
tentative. A lot of his games based on the outside, so SuperCoach wise.
He gets it though, and he uses it well.
He does. He's a very good user of the ball. Now he's played 17 games this year. Missed a couple here and there throughout the season, and he's owned by 33% of the competition. So.
Pretty heavily backed.
He is, and he's been a very consistent performer, especially when you're talking about all those scores over 80. Very rarely dips under that score.
Yeah, and Michael Hibbert as well, hugely consistent. 15 scores of 80 plus, 6 scores of 100 plus, averaging 94, just like Heppel, and that's from 18 games. And he's only owned by 12.5%.
Big breakout year for him. He came out strongly.
Yeah, and he's really played quite well, rebounding off half back. Often, if you shut down Hibbert, you beat Essendon.
It's probably helped with Heppel making more of a move into the midfield this year as well, so he's really coming to his own. But to cap off the All-Australian defence for 2013, our best first-year defender, Brett Goods. Now, it's pretty hard to go past this guy. Hugely consistent before he went down with the injury that ruled him out for the rest of the season, but he had 10 scores of 80 plus and 4 scores of 100 plus, so it wasn't a huge scorer in terms of capacity and ceiling, but he was very consistent.
He's a rookie.
Yeah.
What more do you want?
Rookie at 28, 29 years of age, so Bulldogs are missing him at the moment, but he averaged 91 from 14 games, so, but I mean, on that as well now, he said that there was a criteria of a minimum of 15 games played, although he just misses that. Probably when you look at defence for first year players, he guns it by miles. There's a little bit of an exception there. Floston probably can count himself a bit unlucky. He came in midway through the season, was pretty good. But Brett Goods it is. Now, we've got best of the rest as well. So a few players, I mean, you're probably asking us, well, why didn't such and such get in? Nick Malcheski's been one that we've been spoken about. 13 scores of 80 plus and 6 scores of 100 plus, average of 90. The only reason he didn't make it is because of his average. So it's very stiff. And the same goes for Hamish Hartlett. Started off the year very, very, very strong. Had that 2 months of just consistent scores in the 80s, but he had a few scores that dipped below that as well. So it really, really hurt his chances.
Very erratic score.
Very erratic. He's come back into form recently, but very unlucky for Hamish Hartlett there.
Yeah, and last two, Bob Murphy and Basher Hawley, who are very good value pickups in my opinion. But 80. Scores 80 plus, 11 each, 600 plus scores, averaging 99 for Bob Murphy, who's been really good lately, and Basher Hawley 92. They've both played a decent number of games, but the thing was they had less 80 plus scores than those on the bench.
And prime to having some of those 60 odd scores. So
70s, 60s, and
that's what has let them down. I'm tripping over my words, but look, a few that didn't fit the criteria. Trent McKenzie, he probably would have, but when we put this team together last week, this was with the criteria of 15 games, and he'd only played 14. So he missed 5 or 6 weeks at the start of the year before he came into some good form. So he misses by the absolute skin of his teeth.
And Bryce Gibbs, who's very disappointing. He's probably my most disappointing for the week. He's in a shocking bit of form right now.
Had a shocking season.
10 80 plus scores, 5 100 plus scores, averaging 94 from 17 games. So you say, he only had, 500 plus. That's not good enough.
No, not for what his starting price was this year.
And he was really going to be a breakout player.
Exactly. Now, he was very, very, very well talked up during the year to play more of a midfield role, is what we got the impression from Mick Moldhouse early in the year. And as such, he's played more of a lockdown defensive player. It doesn't really sit well with me. I think he should be utilised more.
Do you think it's a teaching thing?
Could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
He needs to be a lot better one-on-one, that's
he,
for sure.
he definitely does. He's not a two-way runner yet, but put him in the midfield while Murphy's copying a tag, and surely he does a bit of damage, so needs to be pushed up the field for mine.
And last but not least, Garrick Ibbotson, 980 plus scores, 500 plus. Really the only reason was that he didn't play enough games. He only played 13, came in a few rounds in, and it was a good pickup if you got on him really quickly, and it was unfortunate to be a late out last week, but if you had bench cover, you weren't too bad. You had Clisby.
Exactly, and the good thing is that he's likely to return this week against GWS too, so that is a big plus. But now, what we've been looking at this week, it's finals, everyone wants to know who are the most consistent players, who's in the best form, who we should be not looking at. We're going to go through from midfield, forward, defence and ruck and figure out who is hot and who is not. So, Damon's definitely not hot.
Start off with the mids.
Let's just start off with the mids, hey. Who is hot? How can this guy not be hot? Kieran Jack, he has had a huge couple of weeks. Averaged 111 in the first half of the year, so he was pretty good. But since then, in the second half of the year after the bye, he has averaged 125 SuperCoach points. So that's huge. He's gone up.
Massively.
It's ridiculous.
Price quite high at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. He's really broken out this half of the season. He's ranked #1 in the competition for tackles, ranked 2nd overall in goal assists and inside 50s. He's ranked 10th in disposals, 15th in clearances and 17th in kicks. So put simply, they are all of the lucrative areas of point scoring in SuperCoach. So you cannot overlook how good he is doing, and that reflects in obviously those stats as well. He averages a goal a game from 26 disposals. So goal kicking midfielders are gold in SuperCoach. Must get on them. Incredible user of the footy, elite in all areas. And if you are thinking you want to upgrade or sideways trade or something along those lines, Kieran Jack's going to be the #1 on your hit list.
Yeah, and speaking of hit list, he's up there at #1. Josh Kennedy, he is not hot at the moment. Priced at 470, averaging 105, so you'd think, oh, well, what's wrong with him? Last 3, average of 86, and that's
terrible.
Not good enough. First half of the season was averaging 119, but since the bye, he's only averaging 95. So you'd be pretty pissed if you got on him after the bye.
Exactly.
He's only had 300 plus games in the second half of the season. He's struggling to get those massive 130 plus games that he really was getting towards the start of the season.
Even last year he was consistent.
Yeah, and he's getting tagged more often with Jared McVeigh playing that rebounding role. He's become really the #1 target, although it might move to Jack. Who knows?
Yeah, it could.
Jack's
cutting more damaging.
The tag has really allowed Jack and Hanbury to run free and rack up those big scores. Spending less time on the field as well. I'm not sure if he's carrying an injury or something.
There could be a bit of a. We've heard a few bits and pieces that he might be carrying a slight niggle.
And he's the handball happy player in the league. He's overtaken Matty Prittis.
He's overtaken Matthew Prittis.
That's ridiculous.
That's
that
crazy.
Doesn't happen. And his total clangers, he's 19th in the league, and you get a whopping -6 from that.
So that's probably people asking us, well, why is he doing so crappy in SuperCoach? That's why -6 every time. He obviously gets a clanger. That's awful.
Yeah, and
he's averaging 7 clangers a game. That's nat 5 territory.
Well, that's why Fife in the past 2 weeks has been really good, because he's really ironed that out of his game. And he's played every game this year, but he could be due for a rest because they do have a few hard games coming up. I think next week might be the time to rest him because they play a bit of an easier.
Although when they do play the Hawks, he does score very, very well. So you could stick that there and hope that. It is week 1 of finals, so if you are in that 5 to 8 bracket,
and you need the win,
this
is a very interesting fact.
What's the verdict on him?
Now, it's struggle street, and they play Collingwood this week, and last time they played, he had Brett McCaffrey on him, and he wore him like an absolute glove. He only got 56. And this was in a huge vein of form that he was in at the moment. So
he was averaging 122 running into that game against Collingwood and hit a brick wall when Brett McCaffrey met him.
And Collingwood are really back in form now. If they can play the way that they played against Essendon, there's no reason why he won't completely smother him again.
Yeah, you'd probably back McCaffrey to go to him this week, given how good he was against him the last time. That's not really good news for owners out there. So if you've got to trade, this is the time where you can start thinking about using
upgrading to a super premium like Griffin. Like, I don't have Griffin and I have Kennedy, and I'm seriously considering it.
Jack, going to his teammate Jack, Griffin, and the like, even Barlow's had some really good form too. So Now, our forwards, who's hot? That would be Tommy Rockcliffe. Now, we gave him a bit of a bake.
We did.
Probably about a month ago.
He responded.
He's definitely listened because he's hit back big time. Average of 106, but it's his last 3 games average I want to really hone in on. 135 is his current average. It's huge. So congratulations to those who stuck that with him, and good on to the fickle fans who offloaded him. He's had a 5-week period between rounds 8 and 14 where he was averaging a measly 79. He's watched the SCP show because he's hit back, and those 5 weeks, a couple of weeks to follow, last 5 weeks, he has averaged 135, so that is absolutely bonkers. So probably aided with the fact that Simon Black's probably not going to be there for the rest of the year. He's playing more midfield time, he's been released from that forward 50 role, which was really impacting his scoring. So we saw last year that when he was moved forward, that's where he really sort of choked up in scoring. But when he's released into that midfield and allowed to play his natural game, he is unstoppable. 166 on the weekend. Yeah. It's a massive score.
His disposal's gotten a bit better as well.
It definitely has. Now, he hasn't got below a score of 105 weeks. He's got pretty, I would say, easy teams coming up in Melbourne, GWS, and the Bulldogs to come. So 3 weeks of some really good scoring. We're in finals, so that stuff is pure gold.
Yep.
He's still only owned by 30% of teams.
Not enough.
Probably not a true reflection of maybe where he would have been had he not have scored in those 70 regions. But look, since July, he's averaged 28 disposals at 70% efficiency, elite status. So when we're talking about efficiency in SuperCoach, everything is derived from efficiency. If you haven't got him, get on him.
Yeah. And who's not hot? Brent Staker at the moment. He's got a very big price though, 407. So if you were going to upgrade, it would be a good time to do it before he drops any more. He's considered to be an on-field keeper with so many injuries. When this was around the bye rounds and a bit after that, where it seemed to be every week that there was someone, a premium that was out injured. There was Bartel and Johnson and Rewalt and all these, big injuries. But he's had a 3-game streak of 100 scores leading up to this recent patch. 2 scores below 60. So not quite good enough from you, Staker. You did your job though. So
maybe some good coin, but you can't use him on the field going into finals.
Definitely
you will be exploited. So upgrading him to anyone at the moment is a good idea.
Yeah, and it's relatively cheap. I mean, it's only 150 to go up to Rockcliffe, 135 to go to Brett Harvey, who's doing quite well recently.
Flying.
100 to Dustin Martin and 90 to Andrew Walker, which is a bit on and off, but
there's some good options there.
They're premiums.
Very good options there.
And for the Rucks, Matty Leuenberger, he's hot again. We thought, let's trade him out. He's done his job. He's increased in price leading up to the bye, and he had that injury.
Probably the worst decision I made all year.
Yeah, and then he came back early from his big injury and absolutely smashed it. He's averaging 100, last 3 average of 105, been really consistent, scored 6 out of the past 8 times he's scored over 100, and scored really well against the good teams, Geelong, Hawthorn.
All with really good recognised
rucks, and he's got Richmond, GWS, Bulldogs and Geelong to come. Who knows what is going to happen with Richmond if they play Liam McBean, which is the Whisper that we've got.
There you go.
He might spend some time in the ruck and really smash him there. So it's a good way to save 50k on a ruck if you maybe went to Leuenberger instead of an ultra super.
Yeah, like a Cruz or a Goldstein or a Minson.
Yep.
The like.
And he's a good point of difference as well. He's only owned by 15% of the competition.
There you go. He was probably owned by 80% earlier in the year when everyone had him.
Definitely.
But now, who's not in the rucks?
Yours.
Jared Roughhead. You've been a bit of a letdown, pal. Average 92 currently, but it's his last 3 games that have really caused us to go, what is going on? 73 an average from Roughhead. It's not on. It's definitely not on. He's had some epic stinkers. I can't put it any other way. He's had scores of 69, 84 and 69 again.
And my man Troy Chaplin is the only one to keep him goalless all season.
Exactly, there you go. That's a good fact. But before he ran into this wall of crap form, he had 10 successive weeks in a row where he did not drop below 90. Now, we spoke about him a month ago and said this guy is red hot, get on him, and
at the time it was the right decision.
Yeah, he was flying, and then all of a sudden he's just really he struggled. Look, honest to God though, They're playing St Kilda this week, so if you've got him, I wouldn't be jumping off him because St Kilda are missing 4 of their key defensive units.
Yep.
Fisher, Stanley, Simpkin and Gwilt all missing for St Kilda this week. He and Buddy should go absolutely bonkers against St Kilda, and I'd back him to find some form this week. But he's still got huge amounts of upside. He's had a couple of crappy weeks. His price has dropped, so if you are looking to, if you've still got like Nichols or someone like that, and you want to upgrade, Roughhead's someone that you should probably consider. But it doesn't come without warning because he's played every game this year. With Hawks coming into the finals, they're probably going to want to rest a few, and Jared Roughhead's going to be one of them, liking him.
Yep.
And on to our defenders. Now, this guy here is smoking hot. He's in our SuperCoach All-Australian team. It's Scott Thompson from the Kangas. Now, he's got an average of 99, but it's his last 3 games of 110, which is fantastic. He's really bobbed up. He's taken the SuperCoach defence line by absolute storm. 6 straight weeks of 80-plus scores. It's incredible for a key defender, especially when you take into consideration these stats. He's ranked 7th in the competition for rebound 50s, 8th in time spent on ground, and 12th in marks and bounces. So he's a key position player. This stuff's really gets science. So he's taken big intercept grabs. Obviously he likes to run and carry, which is pretty crazy as well. But it's his rebound 50s that he's really doing well because he's such an elite kick. He finds targets so easily. So, I mean, in saying that as well, he's hugely unique. 8% of the competition own him, as we said before. He's one to seriously look at if you need to make an upgrade this week. And
who's not? Gareth Ibbotson, unfortunately. Score of 58, not last week, the week beforehand. And a late out. It's really hurting those that have brought him in. Brought him in right when he started, so good decision. He's got an Achilles injury. We don't know the severity, but he should play.
Ross Lyon said today that he's more than likely to line up this week, but they do play GWS, so wouldn't surprise me to see now.
I think they might give him a bit of a rest because he really tends to stay out there a lot of the time if he's playing. I think he has the most time on ground of all Fremantle players when he plays.
He does.
So consider trading him if he misses, if he's not named, or maybe just keep watching the lockout and trade him out if he's going to miss the game. Ibbotson not hot at the moment.
Definitely not. Now that really brings us now into the unique of the week, and this guy,
another Fremantle boy.
Speaking of Freo,
Matthew Pavlich.
It's Matthew Pavlich. So look, people are going to be going, what is she talking about? Look, he hasn't had the season that he probably would have hoped. Came in with some pretty horrid back injuries, everything injuries. He had several pre-season surgeries and was suspended for the last couple of weeks on that hit from Mitch Brown. But look, let's just take into consideration a few little things. Now he's only $475,000, so if you've got Brent Staker, that's within
70 grand.
Yeah, so it's within a good region. Now he comes back from a 3-week suspension this week, and he could really go bananas after 3 weeks. Now he's been in super hot training at Freo, and the word on the street down there is he's absolutely raging to go. So they have not seen him this fired up all season. Look, Fremantle played GWS this week, and last time he played GWS last year, he scored 160 SuperCoach points and kicked 7 goals. And we all know GWS's backline's pretty sus at the moment. He should really get the points there again. To add to that, he plays Melbourne, who he averages 125 on. He plays Port Adelaide, where he also averages 120, and he also has St Kilda, where he averages 128. So
and they don't have any key defenders.
And they have no key defenders. So on that, if you're really looking to roll the dice, this is a huge risk-reward scenario. So you've got to bite the bullet and do it. If you've got the trades up your sleeve and if you're thinking you want to get an edge on an opponent, I reckon Matthew Pavlich is probably going to be your avenue to success, in my opinion.
If you're worried about, my premium player might get rested, Pav won't get rested. He's just had a few weeks rest. So he's got 4 weeks that he's going to go bam, 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 unless he gets himself suspended or injured again. I highly doubt it.
And there's going to be a bit of a shitstorm to make that 4th spot on the ladder with Essendon and Freo fighting over that. Fremantle are only leading by 2 points thanks to that draw against Sydney. So, Fremantle have got to keep winning. And they're going to want to have Pav in some hot form coming into the finals so he can do some damage. No chance of being rested. And if you're thinking about trading Staker like I am, really have a strong look at Pavlich because the next 4 weeks against some really, I guess, Port Adelaide aside, some really crappy teams, he's going to go berserk.
Definitely. Now moving on to your favourite part of the week.
It's the unique, it wasn't the unique of the week, but it's the tweet of the week. Unique tweet, same thing.
Mine's from
Go for it.
Ben Telford. He's trading out O'Meara and he wants to know who he brings in, Sam Mitchell or Dean Cox. He can move Bartel to the forwards to make that happen. Basically, I think if you were only choosing between those two, I would go with Cox, just because Nick Nat's a bit iffy. He's going to be doing a lot more ruck work. He had an amazing score on the weekend, 159, I believe.
Huge score.
And another option, Trent Cotchin. He's in scintillating.
He's back.
He's back. My boy's back.
He's back.
And Richmond do have a really easy run home. Brisbane, Carlton, GWS, Essendon, and who knows what's going to happen in that last round with Essendon with the situation. Who knows? But yeah, Cox, if you were just looking at those two, but I really rate Cotchin.
Yeah, definitely. Cox is a pretty damn good player, and the second half of the season is usually always much better. So now I've got one from I'm really sorry.
Chandanraj. No.
Chandanraj. He's got one trade left, and he's thinking of going Nick Nat to Boomer. Wants to know my thoughts. You've got to do it. Nick Nat's dodgy groins, and we don't know when he's going to be back. He's been listed now on the West Coast injury list as indefinite, so that could probably mean now with West Coast's chance of finals gone, Nick Nat would probably be on ice. There's no reason to play him.
Yeah.
They're not in any contention to make finals. You've got to do it. It's finals now, and given the form that Boomer's in at the moment,
it's
vintage Boomer. It's crazy to think he's 35, 36, and he's still pulling out these sorts of games. You can't touch him unless you're Ryan Crowley. But I would definitely look at going to Boomer. I'd grab him this week if I had the cash too. But he's been fantastic. But we'll wrap that up anyway. Bit of junk time action. Who's your captain choice this week?
Gary.
Gary?
Plays his 250th game, and it's against Melbourne, and he averages 148 against them as a Gold Coast player. So that's not just including Geelong days. That's as a Gold Coast player. He scored 152, 165, and 125 against them, and the 125 was in 2011 when Gold Coast were really not that great. So as Gold Coast have improved, Gary's scoring has improved against them.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm a big fan of the loophole, and I'll be using it again this week. This guy, Joel Selwood.
Weak
loophole.
No.
I am going to utilise him this week because if he does stink it up, I can always go to Gaz, given Gaz plays in the evening and the Cat is down at the Cattery during the early afternoon.
Now, why are you choosing Selwood?
Why? Well, he loves to rip on Port Adelaide, and especially at Simmons Stadium. His last 2 games there, he's scored 149 and 134 for an average of 139 against Port Adelaide at Simmons Stadium. He is flying, absolute ripping form. He could push for the Brownlow this year. He could push it. Well, if it's not the Brownlow, it's definitely a place because his second half of the year has just been absolutely bananas.
Yeah. So one thing, Geelong really come out and smash teams after they get beaten.
They do.
And they got beaten by Adelaide, they destroyed St Kilda the next week, they got beaten by North.
So history tells us
who knows what's going to happen.
So I mean, if you've got the Geelong players on your side, Stevie J, Bartel, Enright, Taylor and Selwood, they should go crazy this week against Port Adelaide, and Port need to keep winning to keep Carlton out of the 8 and keep themselves in. So pretty good game on the cards, but look, that's all we've got time for this week. We'll be back next week for the second week of finals. Hopefully your team gets over the line. For those of you placed 5th to 8th, congratulations to those of you who finished inside the top 4 with a double chance. That's pretty handy. But and commiserations to those of you who just finished outside the 8 and are playing for consolation finals. But look, it's been a bumpy year. We've only got a couple of episodes left of the season, so.
Australian next week as well.
Australian next week, so the Midfield is coming too, which would be very interesting. Make sure you're paying attention to the Facebook page because we're giving away free AFL caps thanks to our mates at Capstar. They're those awesome new era snapbacks. So you've got the chance to put your 2 bob in for who should be in the All-Australian team, and if you get it right, you get a cap.
Sounds good. That's about all for this week. Same time, same place next week. Go Tigers!
Go Tigers!